Before everything shattered, before the late-night phone calls I wasn't supposed to hear, the smiles that weren't meant for me, and the look on her face when she finally told me the truth, we were the kind of couple people rooted for. Not perfect, but close enough to make people believe in love again. Friends used to say things like, "You two just fit," and I believed them. God, I really did. Her name was Emma. She was the kind of woman who could change the energy of a room just by walking into it, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she was light. Graceful. She moved through life with this effortless confidence that I admired, even envied. We met the summer after college at a 4th of July barbecue my cousin threw out near Lake Norman in Charlotte. I remember that day in fragments. The heat, the smell of charcoal and sunscreen, a dog barking in the distance. But mostly I remember her, standing there in a navy sundress that caught the breeze just enough to make everything around her look like a movie scene. I'd seen her a few times before, but I'd never spoken to her. She was friends with my cousin's girlfriend at the time. That day, I caught her laughing, head thrown back, eyes squeezed shut, and it hit me like a punch to the chest. I must have been staring, because the next thing I knew, she caught me watching her and raised her beer like a toast. A challenge. I walked over, pretending I was cooler than I felt, and asked if she wanted to be my cornhole partner. She smirked and said she'd rather beat me first. And she did, 3 games in a row. That was Emma, playful, competitive, sharp-witted in a way that made your cheeks hurt from smiling too much. We exchanged numbers before she left that night, and I remember sitting in my truck after the party, staring at her contact in my phone like it was some kind of lottery ticket. I didn't sleep much that night, too wired, too hopeful. Something about her cracked me open. Our first date was the following week. Tacos and margaritas at a little place neither of us had been to before. She wore denim shorts and a white tank top, nothing fancy, but I still think about how she looked that night. Sun-kissed, effortless, real. We talked for hours, about family, music, the kind of childhoods we had, what we wanted out of life. I told her I'd never felt so at ease with someone so quickly, and she smiled and said, "That's because you're not trying to impress me." Maybe that was it. With her, I didn't feel like I had to be anyone but myself. 2 years later, we got married under a giant oak tree at a vineyard outside Asheville. The morning was cold and rainy, and I remember being annoyed at first. But the clouds broke just before the ceremony, and the sun came out like it was timed. Emma cried through her vows. I almost did too, but I held it in. Not because I wasn't moved, God no, but because I knew if I started, I wouldn't be able to stop. Our life together was good. Not Instagram perfect or storybook flawless, but deeply good. We bought a modest house in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Charlotte, 3 bedrooms, white shutters, a creaky back porch where we'd drink coffee in the mornings before work. I worked in logistics for a growing distribution company, and Emma was a nurse in the ER, long hours, unpredictable shifts, but she loved the work. Said helping people gave her purpose. I believed her. Money was tight at times, but we made it work. We budgeted, saved for vacations, laughed when the AC broke in the middle of July. We were a team. That's the best way I can describe it. We had each other's backs. Then came Ava. Our daughter was born in March, just as the dogwoods bloomed. I remember holding Emma's hand in the hospital room, watching her fight through pain and exhaustion, and thinking I had never loved her more than I did in that moment. When Ava let out her first cry, Emma looked at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, "She's ours." And just like that, our lives expanded. Parenthood was hard, no doubt. Sleepless nights, spit up on every shirt, calendars filled with pediatrician visits and sleep training articles. But we found our rhythm. Emma took to motherhood like it was second nature. Watching her hold Ava, hum lullabies under her breath, rock her at 2 a.m., it made me love her in a way that felt ancient, rooted. Like we'd done this in 1,000 lifetimes before. We made Sunday breakfast a thing. Bacon, pancakes, coffee, and cartoons. We'd take Ava to the zoo, to the park, to my parents' lake house for the 4th of July every year. The same lake where I first saw Emma. Full circle, right? And through all of it, the jobs, the bills, the parenting chaos, there was Noah. My best friend since I was 12. A brother in everything but blood. The kind of guy who remembered your birthday without Facebook reminders, who would drive 4 hours just to help you move a couch. He was there for our wedding, the birth of our daughter, every major holiday in between. He was Ava's godfather. Trusted. Loved. Family. Emma adored him. They got along from the beginning, same sarcastic humor, same taste in music, same love for stupid trivia games. And why wouldn't they? I never saw a reason to question it. After all, when you trust two people with your whole heart, you never expect them to be the ones to break it. Life, for a while, was quiet in the best kind of way. I used to sit on the porch with a beer after putting Ava down and think, this is it. This is what I always wanted. We didn't have the flashiest life, but it was solid. Real. I'd wake up to the smell of Emma's vanilla shampoo and the soft murmur of Ava babbling on the baby monitor. Saturday mornings were sacred, Ava between us in bed, Emma's leg thrown lazily across mine, sunlight pouring through the curtains. It was domestic bliss, even in its chaos. Even in the sleepless nights and unpaid bills and arguments about who forgot to buy more diapers. It was still ours. Emma worked nights twice a week, which meant I had Ava to myself on those evenings. I'd sing to her in the rocking chair until her tiny body melted into sleep, then I'd spend the next hour texting Emma updates, trying to make her laugh while she was stuck under fluorescent hospital lights and the constant beeping of machines. Sometimes, Noah would come over on those nights. He'd bring wings and beer, help me clean up the mess Ava left behind, talk about football, work, the latest dumb thing his boss said. He loved Ava. Or at least I thought he did. He'd cradle her in his arms like she was something sacred. "You made a perfect little human, man," he once said, and I remember thinking how lucky I was to have him in our lives. We all got close. Too close, maybe. But nothing ever felt inappropriate. Looking back, I can pinpoint a dozen moments I should have clocked as strange, but I didn't. Because when you trust someone, you fill in the blanks with benefit of the doubt. Like the time I caught them laughing a little too hard at something on Emma's phone. Or when I came home early from work one day to find them on the couch, heads tilted together watching some movie, and they looked up like they'd been caught. "We're watching Ava's favorite," Emma said. Noah grinned and added, "Just keeping her company, man." I believed them. Why wouldn't I? I was the one who told Emma to lean on Noah more. When work picked up and I started traveling for management training, she admitted she was feeling overwhelmed. Noah offered to help. Said he could watch Ava for a few hours when Emma needed to sleep post-night shift. He was the only one we trusted enough. And I told her to say yes. "He's family," I said. "You shouldn't have to do it all alone." I remember her nodding, her eyes full of gratitude, and saying, "You're right. Thank you." She kissed me that night like I was her hero. Even when things changed, it was slow. Subtle. Like a steady leak you don't notice until the floor gives out beneath you. Emma started to pull away, but in ways that were easy to explain. She was tired. Overworked. Postpartum exhaustion, maybe. We hadn't been intimate in weeks, then it stretched to months. Every time I reached for her at night, she'd roll away or sigh like I'd woken her from something deep. I blamed myself. Thought maybe I wasn't being romantic enough, helpful enough, understanding enough. I started bringing home flowers for no reason. Left notes in her lunch bag. Took over more housework. Anything to ease her burden. Noah kept showing up, always at the right time. He'd bring takeout when Emma looked too tired to cook. He'd pick up Ava from daycare if Emma was running late. I remember joking once, "If you ever disappear, I'll be screwed without my backup husband." Noah laughed. Emma didn't. She just gave me a tight smile and walked off to change Ava's diaper. I told myself everything was fine. That every couple hits a rough patch. That this was just part of marriage. But the intimacy wasn't the only thing that disappeared. The way she used to look at me was gone. Her eyes didn't linger. Her laughter didn't hit the same octave. She still said, "I love you," but it sounded rehearsed, like reciting a line in a play she no longer believed in. Then came the birthday. Emma's 30th. I planned a surprise dinner with all her closest friends and family, including Noah, of course. I rented out a small room at her favorite wine bar, made a slideshow of our life together, and even got Ava to scribble a birthday card. Emma smiled that night. She cried during the slideshow. She held my hand during dessert and whispered, "You really do love me, don't you?" I squeezed her hand back and said, "With everything I've got." I meant it. I didn't know that 2 days later my world would implode. What I didn't know then, what I would only piece together after the fall, was that the night before her birthday, she and Noah had been alone together. She had told me she was getting her nails done, but her stylist said Emma cancelled. She never mentioned it. I didn't push. Why would I? I trusted her. That trust, that blind, all-consuming trust was my greatest flaw. Because while I was planning surprises and writing love letters and birthday cards, she was pulling away in ways I couldn't see. The truth wasn't just hiding in shadows. It was sitting right beside me at dinner, laughing at my jokes, toasting my wife. It was wearing my best friend's face. I think what hurts the most is how normal everything still felt, even when it wasn't. After her birthday, Emma seemed lighter. I took it as a good sign. I thought maybe the celebration had reminded her of everything we had, everything we built. For a few days she was affectionate again, kissing my cheek as I poured coffee, grabbing my hand when we walked through Target. I remember thinking, we're okay, we're finding our way back. God, I wanted that to be true. I needed it to be true. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I was clinging to a mirage. A version of her that no longer existed. I didn't know I was loving a ghost while the real Emma had already crossed into something else, somewhere I couldn't follow. There were moments, though. Tiny fractures in the glass that I kept trying to smooth over. One night I came home from work a little earlier than expected. Emma wasn't there, but Ava was playing in the living room watching Frozen for the 100th time. Noah was there, sitting cross-legged on the floor with her, helping her color. Harmless. Or at least it should have been. But when he looked up and saw me, something flickered across his face. Surprise? Guilt? I couldn't place it, but it made my skin crawl. He smiled too quickly. "Hey, man! We're making Elsa purple today." He chuckled, holding up a crayon. I smiled back. Pretended everything was fine. Asked where Emma was? He said she ran to the store. When she got home 20 minutes later, she looked flustered. Claimed traffic had been insane. I nodded, kissed her temple, said I missed her. She didn't say it back. I started noticing her phone habits more. The way she'd flip her screen down when I walked in. The new password she suddenly added. When I teased her about it, she just laughed and said, "HIPAA compliance, babe. Can't risk work stuff being seen." I told myself it made sense. She was a nurse. Patient privacy and all that. But the pit in my stomach wouldn't leave. I'd hear her phone vibrate late at night, and she'd check it with this weird urgency, turning her body away from me in bed. Sometimes she'd step into the bathroom for 10-15 minutes. Said she was using the heated pad for her back. I wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. Because believing anything else meant accepting the possibility that my marriage was rotting from the inside out. I remember one afternoon. I was homesick, nothing serious, just some stomach bug. Emma had taken Ava out to visit her parents, or so she said. I was half asleep on the couch when I heard a knock on the front door. Not the kind of knock you expect midweek. 3 short taps, familiar rhythm. I got up, wrapped in a blanket, opened the door. No one. But on the welcome mat was a brown paper bag from a Thai place downtown. My name was scribbled on the top in Sharpie. Inside was my usual, chicken pad Thai, medium heat, extra lime. I looked around, confused. No delivery car. No receipt. I called Emma. "Thanks for the food," I said. "I didn't order anything," she replied. We're still at Mom's. Why? My voice cracked. Nothing. Just thought maybe you sent something. I hung up and stared at the food. 15 minutes later, I found a text on my phone from Noah. Hope you feel better, brother. Figured you could use something warm. I wanted to believe that was kindness. But something in my chest tightened like a fist. The worst part? I still didn't know. I still wasn't sure. Suspicion is a slow, corrosive poison. It eats at you in silence. It makes you second-guess every smile, every delay in answering a question, every faint perfume you don't recognize. I started keeping a mental log of her behavior. What time she left, when she said she'd be home, what she wore. I hated myself for it. Felt like a paranoid wreck. But every day, the unease grew louder. I stopped sleeping. I lost weight. My coworkers asked if I was okay. I lied to everyone. Just tired. Stress at work. Nothing serious. But it was serious. And I could feel something coming. I just didn't know what. Or when. One night, Ava had a nightmare. She woke up crying, asking for both of us. Emma wasn't in bed. I went downstairs and found her sitting at the kitchen table, face lit by her phone screen. She was crying, quietly, like she didn't want to wake anyone. I froze in the hallway, watching her thumbs move fast, furiously typing. I wanted to ask who she was texting. I wanted to walk in, wrap my arms around her, and ask what was breaking her apart in the dark. But I didn't. I turned around and went back upstairs. I told myself she was just overwhelmed. Maybe dealing with something at work. That's what I told myself. The next morning, she was fine. Overly cheerful, almost forced. She made pancakes, tickled Ava, kissed my cheek with syrup on her lips. And I let her. I let it all happen, like I didn't see her falling apart the night before. Like I didn't feel myself unraveling a little more each day. There's this terrifying part of betrayal that no one really talks about. It's not just the moment you find out. It's the weeks and months before, when your soul knows something's wrong, but your mind won't let it be true. When you're living in a house of cards and you keep trying to reinforce it with hope. When the person you love is already gone, but they still share your bed, your food, your child. That limbo of pretending everything is okay, when everything is not. That's where I was. Blind. Numb. Waiting for the floor to give way. And the worst part? I still told her I loved her. Every single night. It started with a smell. That's what broke the illusion. Something small, stupid. It was a Wednesday night. Emma had said she was working late, covering a shift for a coworker, some girl named Mallory who apparently had a family emergency. I didn't think much of it. I fed Ava dinner, gave her a bath, read her 3 books even though we usually stop at 2, because she asked with those sleepy, pleading eyes that looked too much like her mother's. She fell asleep clutching her stuffed flamingo, and I kissed her forehead, whispering the same thing I said every night. Daddy's right here. Always. I stayed downstairs waiting for Emma. Scrolling through my phone, ignoring the pit in my gut that had become a permanent companion. She got home around 11:45, hair pulled back, scrubs wrinkled like she'd really been working. But when she hugged me, I smelled something that didn't belong, cologne. Not mine. Something woodsy and sharp, the kind that clung to you in a way soap and air couldn't erase. I pulled back just slightly. Did the hospital switch to men's body spray now? I joked. She laughed, but it was too loud, too quick. Oh. One of the paramedics gave me a hug goodbye. I think he had something on. I didn't even notice. She brushed it off, kissed me again, and walked to the fridge like nothing had happened. But I stood there in the kitchen doorway, stomach turning. I knew that scent. I'd smelled it before on Noah. I didn't say anything that night. I watched her move around the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine, rubbing her neck like she was trying to shake the weight of the day. And I stood there pretending everything was fine, pretending I believed her. But a part of me broke then. Something I couldn't tape back together. Because for the first time in our marriage, I knew she was lying to me. The next day, I started watching her differently. Not with love. With doubt. Every smile became suspect. Every text message she sent in the bathroom felt like a secret carved behind a closed door. I started keeping a list. Literally. On my phone. Times, dates, her excuses, her mood changes. It felt insane. I felt like a stranger in my own head, second-guessing everything. But I couldn't stop. I had to find the truth. I needed it. Because without it, I was losing my grip on what was real. That weekend, I asked her casually how Mallory was doing. What? She asked. You said her mom had an emergency? The one whose shift you covered Wednesday? Emma blinked. Oh. Yeah, she's okay. Just a scare. I think everything's fine now. But her voice faltered for just a second too long. Her eyes flickered away, and I felt the lies slide off her tongue like oil. I nodded, pretending to believe her. I didn't sleep at all that night. Sunday morning, I found her phone on the bathroom counter while she was giving Ava breakfast. Unlocked. God help me, I wasn't trying to find something. I just needed to know I was wrong. That all the alarms in my head were just echoes from somewhere darker, not something real. I opened her messages. Nothing suspicious. Then I checked the deleted folder. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. There was a thread, Noah's name. Just 2 messages visible. One from him. I can't stop thinking about the other night. And her reply. We can't keep doing this. That was it. Nothing more. The rest was wiped clean. But it was enough. More than enough. I set the phone down like it burned. She walked in just as I backed away from the counter. She froze. Everything okay? She asked. I nodded too fast. Yeah. Just washing my hands. She smiled, but I saw the panic flicker behind her eyes. She knew. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not yet. I wasn't ready. What I felt in that moment wasn't rage. It was grief. Pure, hollow, open-chested grief. Like someone had scooped my insides out and replaced them with ice. For the next week, I went through the motions. Work. Dinners. Bath time. Lullabies. But inside, I was unraveling. She kept texting. Late at night, in the bathroom, in the garage. I'd hear her voice soften when she thought I couldn't hear her. I started listening. Not to what she said. To how she said it. The warmth in her voice wasn't for me anymore. It was for him. The same warmth she used to reserve for me alone. The same softness that once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. One night, I watched her through the crack in the door as she stood on the porch, phone pressed to her ear. She was smiling. Laughing softly. Biting her lip. That was the moment I knew I didn't recognize her anymore. The woman I married, the one who cried through her vows, who made pancakes in my t-shirts, who held our baby against her chest and whispered lullabies in the dark, she was gone. Replaced by someone who shared her face but not her loyalty. Not her heart. And the man she gave it to was the one I trusted most. I started playing a part after that. The devoted husband, the oblivious fool, the man who still believed in the fairy tale. I smiled when she kissed my cheek, nodded when she said she loved me, tucked Ava in like nothing in our world was crumbling behind the scenes. But something inside me had died. And when something dies in you, it changes the way you breathe. I was quieter. More calculating. And Emma noticed. She asked me if I was okay, if work was getting to me, if I needed to talk. And I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream in her face. Talk? With you? The woman who lied to me, who slept next to me while sharing her heart, and maybe her body, with my best friend. But I said none of it. I told her I was just tired. She nodded slowly, eyes narrowing for a split second before she smiled and went back to checking her phone. That phone became a living enemy. Always in her hand, always lighting up. I started logging the numbers she texted. One stood out. Not saved. Just a number. But it showed up again and again. At all hours. I wrote it down. Then one night, after she fell asleep curled away from me like I was some stranger she had to keep her back to, I called it from a burner app. Just a quick ring. It went to voicemail. And the voice that answered? "You've reached Noah. Leave something worth my time." My blood went cold. I sat there in bed, staring at the wall like I just stepped into some alternate universe where up was down, and right didn't exist anymore. I had suspected. I had even known. But hearing his voice on that anonymous number, that made it real. That made it something I couldn't rationalize away. I wanted proof. Solid, undeniable, visual truth. So I got it. I bought a small keychain cam, one of those spy gadgets that felt ridiculous until you actually needed them. I set it up in the bookshelf facing the living room. Nothing dramatic. Just pointed toward the couch. I didn't expect much at first. A week passed. Then 2. Then one night, Emma said she was heading out to grab groceries after Ava went down. I offered to come. She said no. Said I looked tired and should rest. She kissed me softly, like she still believed I was hers to fool, and left. I watched from the upstairs window as her taillights disappeared down the road. Then I waited. Less than 10 minutes later, Noah's truck pulled into the driveway. I watched from the shadows. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared through the blinds like a ghost in my own home. He didn't knock. He walked in like he owned the place. Like this wasn't my house, my marriage, my child sleeping upstairs. I felt rage crawl up my throat like bile. I wanted to run down there and rip him apart. But I didn't. I waited. 2 hours later, he left. Emma came home 20 minutes after that. Grocery bags in hand, receipt taped to the top. Prepped and covered. Practiced. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. He came in. Sat on the couch. She entered from the kitchen with 2 glasses of wine. They clinked, laughed, leaned into each other. She took his hat off. He touched her hair. They kissed. Not frantically. Not lustfully. No, softly. Comfortably. Like it wasn't their first time. Like it had become normal. Familiar. And when she laid her head on his shoulder and whispered something that made him smile, I paused the footage. I couldn't watch anymore. I couldn't see her look at him like that. Like I didn't exist. Like I had never existed. I spent the rest of that day in a fog. Made Ava breakfast. Took her to the park. Watched her giggle on the swings while my entire world was falling apart. I smiled for her. I pushed her higher. But I felt like a hollow man in someone else's body. That night, I sat across from Emma at dinner and stared at her hands. The same hands that once held our newborn daughter. The same hands that now held another man in the dark. She was telling me about something funny that happened at work. I nodded at the right moments. But all I could think was, you chose him. You had a husband who loved you. Who built this life with you. And you chose him. My best friend. My brother. And suddenly I remembered something from years ago. At our wedding, during the reception, I found them standing close, too close, near the bar. Laughing. She touched his arm. He looked at her the way I thought only I could. Back then, I chalked it up to alcohol. To nerves. To the energy of celebration. But now I saw it differently. Now I saw the seed that had been planted. This didn't happen overnight. This wasn't a mistake. This was something that had been growing behind my back, inside my house, under the roof I paid for, in the walls that held our vows. And the worst part? They let me play the fool. They let me sit across from them at birthdays and game nights and barbecues while they smiled and laughed and made memories on my dime, on my time, in my name. They thought I'd never know. But now I did. And I wasn't going to pretend anymore. It happened on a Tuesday. I'll never forget that. Just a regular damn Tuesday. The kind of day that starts with burnt toast and Ava refusing to wear socks, nothing to mark it as the one that would split my life clean in two. I worked from home that day. Emma thought I had gone in, I let her think that. She kissed me goodbye at 7:15 a.m., hair pulled into a loose ponytail, that same travel mug in her hand she always used. "Love you," she said. Reflex. Automatic. A lie carved into muscle memory. I told her I loved her too, and that was a lie too, or maybe not, because some twisted, bleeding part of me still did. I watched her drive away, then waited 20 minutes and pulled my car around the block. Parked on a side street. Killed the engine. And waited. 3 hours later, just before 11, Noah's truck showed up. I'd been sitting there long enough for my back to ache and my legs to go numb, but the second I saw that bastard's pickup round the corner and slowed to a stop in front of my home, adrenaline lit me up like a lightning strike. I sat perfectly still, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles cracked. He got out like it was nothing. Like it was Tuesday. Like he belonged. No hesitation, no glancing around. Just walked up and knocked. And when she opened the door, still in her tank top and leggings, hair now down, no trace of hesitation in her smile, I felt something in me snap. I didn't wait. I didn't think. I pulled the car around the block, turned into my driveway, slammed the door hard enough to wake the neighbors, and walked through my front door like a man who had nothing left to lose. They didn't hear me at first. I could hear their voices, Emma's soft and low, Noah's stupid chuckle. The sound of two people who'd grown far too comfortable doing something unforgivable. I moved through the house slow, deliberate, each step fueled by a kind of fury I didn't know I had in me. And then I turned the corner into the living room and there they were, on the couch, exactly where the camera had shown me. She was tucked beside him, legs folded, one hand on his knee. And he had the audacity to look relaxed, like he belonged there. It took a second for them to register me. Emma's eyes went wide. Her hand snapped off his leg like she'd touched fire. Noah stood up fast, too fast, knocking over the glass of water on the coffee table. "Jesus, man," he said, hands raised like I was the threat here. "What the hell are you doing home?" I didn't answer. I looked at Emma, and all I said was, "You lied to me." She started shaking her head, already talking, her voice high and desperate. "It's not what you think, please, just let me explain." I cut her off. "No. I don't want your explanations. I've seen enough." Noah stepped forward like he was going to say something else, maybe an apology, maybe a justification, but I didn't give him the chance. I told him to get out of my house before I made sure he couldn't walk out on his own. He hesitated. 1 second too long. Then he looked at her. And that's what destroyed me. He looked at her for permission. Like I was the outsider. Like they were the team now, and I was the intruder in my own goddamn life. She didn't say a word. Just looked at the floor, ashamed or broken or too much of a coward to do anything else. And that was enough for him. He walked past me, didn't say a word. I watched him leave, slamming the door behind him, and the sound felt like a coffin nail. Then it was just the two of us. Me and the woman I'd given everything to. The mother of my child. The love of my life. She sat back down like her legs wouldn't hold her. I stood there, unable to move. My heart was pounding so loud I thought I might pass out. The silence between us was unbearable. She whispered my name. I didn't answer. She tried again. "Please, please just let me talk." I didn't say anything for a long time. Then, finally I asked, "How long?" Her eyes welled up. She didn't answer. I asked again, louder. "How long?" And she whispered, "Almost a year." That's when I felt the floor fall away beneath me. A year. A year. While I was making her dinner and folding our daughter's laundry and planning weekend trips to the mountains, she was betraying me with the man I considered my brother. 52 weeks of lies. Of stolen moments. Of hiding something this big, this vile, while I stood right there in the middle of it like a blind, faithful idiot. I told her I wanted her out. That day. I didn't care where she went. I didn't care what she said to Ava. I didn't even care if the neighbors saw her leaving with tears down her face. I told her she was never coming back into this house, not like this. She begged. She tried to touch me. I flinched like she was poison. And maybe she was. Or maybe she just killed something inside me that will never grow back. By that night, she was gone. And I was alone in the ruins of the life I thought we built together. The first night alone was the quietest sound I've ever heard. The silence in the house didn't just settle, it invaded. It filled every room like smoke, thick and choking and impossible to ignore. Emma's things were still everywhere. Her shoes by the door. Her hairbrush on the bathroom sink. A sweater on the back of the kitchen chair. I couldn't touch any of it. I just moved around them like they were landmines, because each one had her scent, her memory, her fingerprints still warm. Ava didn't understand. She kept asking where Mommy went. I told her Mommy was staying with Grandma for a little while, that she needed some rest. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. I couldn't give her the truth. How do you explain betrayal to a 4-year-old? How do you say, your mother destroyed our family because she couldn't keep her promises? So I kissed her forehead and lied with the gentlest voice I could find. Emma texted me that night. Just 3 words. I'm so sorry. I didn't reply. I couldn't. There was nothing left to say that didn't taste like blood in my mouth. She texted again the next day. And the next. Long messages. Apologies. Begging for a conversation. Telling me it wasn't serious, that it was a mistake, that she didn't know how to stop once it started. That she never stopped loving me. But love doesn't look like what she did. Love doesn't sneak into your house wearing another man's cologne. Love doesn't lie to your face every morning while your child eats cereal in the next room. And even if some part of her still loved me, what difference did it make now? Noah didn't say anything. Not a text. Not a call. Not a knock at the door. Coward. I guess once he lost his access to her, he didn't see any reason to pretend anymore. And that was almost worse. That he could destroy 15 years of friendship and just disappear like none of it mattered. Like I never meant a damn thing to him. I found out from a mutual friend a week later that he moved out of state. Transferred jobs. Just like that. Cut ties. Ran. I guess he didn't want to deal with the fallout. Or maybe he knew if I ever saw him again, I wouldn't stop myself this time. Work was the only place I felt normal, but even that started to crumble. My boss pulled me aside after a meeting. Asked if everything was okay at home. Said I seemed distracted, quiet, not myself. I wanted to tell him everything. That my wife had been cheating on me with my best friend for a goddamn year. That every smile I faked in the office was held together with duct tape and desperation. That some days I didn't want to come in because it meant getting dressed and pretending I still had something worth waking up for. But I just nodded and told him I was fine. Because what else could I say? Nights were the worst. After Ava went to sleep and the house settled into that haunting stillness again, I'd sit on the couch in the dark, drinking cheap whiskey, flipping through old photos on my phone. Our wedding day. Our honeymoon in Charleston. Emma holding Ava for the first time. Her smile back then was real. Or at least I thought it was. I started questioning everything. Was she already thinking about him during those smiles? Was I always second place and just didn't know it? Did I ever even have all of her, or was she always holding some part back, saving it for someone else? The doubt didn't just eat at my past, it started bleeding into my future. I couldn't imagine trusting anyone again. How do you love someone after this? How do you look at a new person and not wonder who they'll become behind closed doors? Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Every time I saw a pickup truck that looked like Noah's, my stomach turned. I was raw. Suspicious of everyone. The pain wasn't sharp anymore, it was dull, steady, permanent. Like a broken bone that never healed right. And still, I had to smile for Ava. I had to get up, make breakfast, do laundry, answer questions like, "When's Mommy coming back?" And say things like, "Soon, sweetie," even though I had no idea what the hell was coming next. Emma's mom called me once. Said she didn't know the full story but that Emma was devastated. That she cried every night and hadn't been eating. That she wanted to come back. She made a mistake, her mother said, as if that word could somehow contain the level of betrayal she unleashed. I didn't say much. Just thanked her for calling and hung up. Emma didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. Again and again. For an entire year. Every day she walked back into this house and kissed me goodnight with someone else's scent still fading from her skin. That was a choice. And there's no coming back from that. I didn't know where to go from there. I still don't. The house is quieter now. She hasn't texted in days. Maybe she finally gave up. Or maybe she's giving me space, thinking there's still something here to salvage. But there's not. There's only ash. And ashes don't rebuild. They scatter. They fade. And yet, every night, I still reach for her side of the bed. Even though I know it'll be empty. The truth didn't stay between us for long. Secrets rot in silence, and this one was no different. It started with my sister. She came by one afternoon with Ava's birthday gift a few weeks early, like she always did. Emma wasn't there, of course. The house still looked like she had just stepped out for groceries, half her closet still untouched, a mug she always used still in the sink. My sister asked where she was, and I told her. Not the watered-down version I gave my daughter, not the polite lie I gave to work. The truth. Raw. Blunt. She was having an affair, I said, voice barely steady. With Noah. I expected shock, maybe disbelief. What I didn't expect was for her face to harden like granite. I knew something was off, she muttered. That bastard always looked at her too long. Always stayed too late. I asked why she didn't say anything. She just shook her head. Because I didn't want to be wrong. But she wasn't wrong. None of us were. We just chose not to see it. My sister told my parents. I didn't ask her to, but I wasn't angry about it either. I didn't have the energy to tell the story twice. My mom called that night crying. I thought Emma loved you, she kept saying. I thought she was one of the good ones. And what could I say to that? So did I. My dad, ever the quiet one, just said, You did everything right, son. This isn't on you. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until the words came through the phone. Because part of me still wondered. Still questioned. What if I had worked less? What if I had seen the signs sooner? What if I had been a better husband? But the truth is, love isn't armor. It can't stop someone who's already decided to bleed you dry. The hardest conversation came with Ava. She was too young to understand what infidelity meant, but not too young to feel the shift. She missed her mom. Asked for her constantly. Drew her into pictures with crooked hearts and bright yellow suns. Every time she asked, Is Mommy coming home soon? I felt something tear inside me. I didn't want her to hate her mother. I didn't want to poison her view of someone who, despite everything, was still half of her world. So I lied. Again. I told her Mommy and Daddy were having a tough time, but we both loved her very much. And it worked for now. But I know one day she'll ask the real questions. And I'll have to decide how much of the truth I can give her without letting it swallow her whole. People started choosing sides too. Mutual friends, those who knew both me and Noah, started reaching out awkwardly, offering apologies or silence or avoidance. Some of them ghosted me completely. I get it. No one wants to be in the middle of a war. But it still hurt. People I considered family at one point. People who toasted at our wedding, who held Ava at her christening. Vanished. Like I was the contagious one. Like grief was something they didn't want to catch. One friend, Mark, called and said he had seen Noah and Emma together a few months back. At a bar. They looked close, he said. Too close. He didn't say anything at the time. Didn't want to stir drama. I wanted to scream at him. Ask him what kind of man sees that and does nothing. But instead I just said, Thanks for letting me know. Because the anger was too heavy to carry anymore. It just folded into the sadness. Another break in the wall. Emma tried to reach out again. This time through a letter. 4 pages. Handwritten. Apologies. Confessions. Desperation. She said Noah meant nothing now. That she didn't even recognize herself anymore. That she missed our family. That she was willing to do anything to fix this. Therapy. Counseling. Moving out of state. Whatever it took. But you can't glue ashes back together. You can't rewind betrayal. You can't unsee the way someone looked at the person who ruined you. She said she wanted to come clean to everyone. Tell the truth. Make amends. That maybe, just maybe, people would forgive her. But I didn't care what anyone else thought. This wasn't about saving her reputation. This wasn't about public perception or mutual friends or family dinners. This was about the fact that I would never look at her the same way again. That I could never sleep beside her without hearing his name in my head. That love, once fractured like this, turns into something else. Something dark. Something heavy. Something that poisons the air between two people. I didn't respond to her letter. I kept it though. Tucked it in a drawer. Not because I wanted to reread it. But because part of me still needs to believe that she's suffering too. That it wasn't easy for her to burn our life down. That it cost her something. Because if it didn't, if she walked away from all of this clean, untouched, and free, then that means I was the only one who truly loved. And that might be the cruelest truth of all. The divorce papers were signed on a Friday morning. Rain tapped the courthouse windows like it was trying to whisper some final warning, but I didn't need one. The damage had already been done. Emma wore black, of all things. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. Hollow. Like the weight of her choices had finally caught up with her. I didn't speak to her beyond what was necessary. Just nods. Yes. No. Initial here. Sign there. The lawyers did most of the talking, their voices clinical and detached, slicing up the last 13 years of my life into custody schedules and asset divisions. When it was over, she waited for me in the hallway. I considered walking past her. But I didn't. I stopped. She looked up with red eyes and said the one thing I knew she'd say. I still love you. And I looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time in months. And all I felt was tired. Not hate. Not rage. Just tired. I said, You loved me. And you let that die. Then I walked away. Ava handled it better than I expected. Children are resilient in ways we don't give them credit for. She cried the first few nights. Asked why Mommy wasn't coming home. I told her that Mommy and Daddy were going to live in different houses now, but that we both still loved her more than anything. I told her it wasn't her fault. I told her I'd never leave her. And I meant that with every cell in my body. We started new routines. Just the two of us. Saturday pancakes became Saturday zoo trips. Movie nights on the couch. Little songs we'd sing brushing our teeth. She gave me a reason to keep going, even when it felt like there was nothing left worth waking up for. I started going to therapy. At first, just to get through the day. Then because I realized I had to understand why I stayed so long in a lie that was slowly killing me. Why I didn't see the signs. Why I ignored the ones I did. I talked about the betrayal, sure. But I also talked about the years before. The way I put Emma on a pedestal. The way I tried to fix every problem with more effort, more love, more sacrifice. The way I lost myself trying to be everything for someone who was already gone. The therapist told me that wasn't love. That was survival. And maybe she was right. Friends drifted. Some stayed. Some didn't know what to say. And I didn't blame them. No one knows how to mourn a living person. No one knows how to comfort a man who lost his best friend and wife in the same breath. I got used to the loneliness. It became a second skin. But slowly, over time, that skin started to crack. Sunlight started leaking in. I went out more. Took Ava on longer trips. Started running again. Reclaimed parts of myself I'd buried beneath the weight of a dying marriage. Emma didn't fight me on custody. She knew I was the more stable parent. She took Ava on weekends, tried to rebuild something from the rubble she created. I never spoke badly about her in front of our daughter. I never would. Not because she didn't deserve it, but because Ava deserved better. She deserved to love her mother without my bitterness poisoning that bond. That was my burden to carry, not hers. Every now and then I'd get a message from someone who'd heard the story secondhand. Old friends, co-workers, distant relatives. They'd say things like, "I'm so sorry," or, "You didn't deserve that," or, "I always thought you two were perfect." And I'd smile politely, thank them, move on. Because what else is there to say? Yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke me. Yes, it changed everything. But no, I'm not ruined. Not anymore. I never heard from Noah again. I don't know where he went. Don't care. Maybe that's the truest form of closure, not needing it. Just letting the past sink into itself and stop chasing answers you'll never get. I don't know if he regrets it. If she does. But I know I survived. And that's enough. I've started seeing someone now. Slowly. Carefully. It's different this time. I don't need her to fill the holes left behind. I just want honesty. I want peace. She knows what happened. She's patient with me. Doesn't flinch when I pull back sometimes. Doesn't rush me when I go quiet. She just holds space for me. And I'm learning to trust again, one breath at a time. Some nights I still wake up reaching for the other side of the bed. Out of habit. Out of memory. But most mornings now, I just get up. I make coffee. I pack Ava's lunch. I put one foot in front of the other and walk into the day like a man who knows what it means to lose everything, and still keep going. Emma and I don't talk much anymore. Just the basics. Pick-up times. Health updates. School schedules. The essentials. I see her face in Ava's sometimes. It still hurts. But it doesn't destroy me. The truth is, you don't heal from betrayal by forgetting it ever happened. You heal by learning to carry it without letting it shape who you become. And I've carried it long enough. I'm ready to put it down now.